Hello everyone, it is Brandon here again for another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to rise from rock bottom up into your best life possible and how to do that rapidly. So, what makes me bring up this topic? What makes me think of this as a video I'd like to share? Ultimately, it comes from me having bipolar disorder. Some people might not know what that is. Some people might not think that's a big deal. Or some people might look down on me simply for having that or claiming to have that as an accurate diagnosis. In truth, my medical diagnosis at the very beginning, my first manic episode, and over a decade of this adventure moving on and on, after my first diagnosis, it is very clear that that is an accurate diagnosis. So my actual medical diagnosis is bipolar type 1 with psychotic features. What does that mean? What is psychosis, first off? Psychosis, literally by definition, is losing touch with reality. More so, losing touch with the objective reality that most people are interfacing with. You know what, consensus reality is, whether you recognize that term or not. It's the fact that you're looking at a screen right now and you recognize it as a YouTube video, and you recognize likely that you are an individual person with a level of autonomy, will, you're a human being, you're on planet Earth, you're breathing in oxygen right now, etc., etc. There's a certain reality and understanding that most humans are tapped into 99.9% of the time. Psychosis is getting out of that frame of mind, essentially. And when it's talked about in a medical problem sense, a problem of psychosis medically, it's basically that your understanding has skewed so differently that it's become out of control, and that it's actually difficult for you to come back and see reality the way that other people see reality. So what this means in practice is that I will get to psychotic levels, so is basically reality shattering and changing levels of anxiety, stress, depression, mania, happiness, elation, love, bliss, despair, etc., etc. You can think of pretty much any human emotion, any typical human emotion. There's probably, dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds. I've probably experienced these at a psychotic degree at some point or another in my journey. So, what does this have to do with you? What does this have to do with you getting out of your rock bottom state? Let's say maybe you clicked on this video because you're kind of in a rock bottom right now. Or you clicked on this video because you've been to rock bottom before and you really don't want to go back. Or you've clicked on this video and something makes you want to kind of protect yourself from getting to rock bottom and not knowing what to do or how to come out of it. So that's what this video is geared toward. It's basically, I've been dealing with unintentionally going to rock bottom because of stupid choices and decisions that happen when I get into a psychotic state of consciousness where my entire personality changes. And I'm basically forced to live life in an entirely new way that creates a lot of outcomes that might not be the best. So it can create a lot of financial problems. It can create problems in my relationships. It can make me lose jobs or lose work for sure, like lose time at my jobs. Usually I didn't lose my jobs because I did a pretty good job while I'm at work and put a lot of effort into it. So even if I have, mental health stuff going on, my employers usually understood and were fine with, allowing me to have that time off. But when you have time off regularly, like some of my worst years, I would have 5 or 6 serious episodes in which I was hospitalized for roughly 2 to 3 weeks a time. I think my worst year, it could have been like 2019, somewhere around there, maybe 2020. Those are some really hard years for me. So you miss that amount of income, it's a problem, right? For most people, they say 60% or so of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Just imagine not having, I don't know, let's say you're paid bi-weekly So all of a sudden now you don't have 6 paychecks or 10 paychecks out of a year biweekly. That can be challenging, right? So how do you come back from that? At the end of the day, I know with absolute confidence that I've acquired many unique skills, traits, perspectives, philosophies, and just general life competence through my hundreds of adventures from rock bottom back to my best life. And I do that rapidly. That's just part of the life of someone with bipolar disorder who is going to be successful. If you're going to succeed with bipolar disorder, you have to build this muscle. Now, the useful thing for you is whether you have a mental health disorder or not, suffer with depression or not, have anything like that, everybody's going to have challenging times in their lives. So because I've had to go to rock bottom and build myself back up, I've built a lot of experience and tools on how to go from that journey of your low point to your high point. And that's what I want to bring in here for you, some insights into that. And this is probably a topic I'm going to continue to make videos about, just because I think it is one topic I've actually had a lot more exposure to, just because of the fact of, my medical reality, my mental health reality. It was just, this is how my life was kind of given to me. I didn't have much of a choice other than to develop the skill of picking yourself back up, rising from the ashes, or I would just have a perpetually horrible life. And, I'm not bringing up all of this to say that I've had a bad life. In fact, this video is far more me saying I've acquired and earned and grown into an amazing life where I have a loving relationship, a good family, like actually a son now. I have my own house. I have a business for 6 years. It's succeeded, and it's growing and expanding. I have, good employment situations. I can provide for myself and others just with a single income household, just me. But I've maintained good family relationships, even throughout all the bipolar disorder nonsense. And there's just more and more I could go into, right? Really, the biggest thing is some of the spiritual and perceptual shifts that I've gone through and kind of earned to level up with some hard work. Those are the biggest things, because that affects everything else in my life. So at the end of the day, I've went through a lot of shit, but actually created some gold for myself out of some hard situations, some hard circumstances. And that's why I want to share what I've learned from those journeys of going to rock bottom and picking myself back up. Because I think a lot of you out there will get value from it if you stick around and just listen to me seriously talk about these different insights. So I asked myself a contemplation question. It's, what has helped me build this skill of rising from the ashes? I'll list off some quickly here. Business knowledge, passive income, personal finance knowledge, nurturing relationships with family and close friends. So I put energy into my family and friend relationships, and that in turn builds a support system naturally. You just having good relationships with those who care and love you or in your life, that's an important tool. People talk about abundance. They might talk about dollars. They might talk about free time. Whatever they talk about, one of the most important forms of abundance you can have in your life is people who love you and support you no matter what happens. And when you live the kind of life that I have, you find out who actually loves and supports you and quote unquote rides for you. You find out who cares and who doesn't real fast. The majority of people, I've had basically my entire community turn like my entire town, like my reputation destroyed by myself because I was in a state where my neurochemistry was uncontrollable and I had no ability to control it, even working with doctors, etc., etc. So you find out who cares real fast. And if you can nurture the relationships that matter in your life, oftentimes that might be with your parents, that might be with your siblings, that might be with just a couple close friends. They might not even be the friends like you really like to hang out with the most, but they're probably the people who care about you the most. That's what matters. And that's a bit of a maturity thing, realizing who actually has your back and realizing that those are the people you need to give time to. That's huge, just for creating a stable life, no matter who you are. We are social creatures, unless you're going out and living in a cave, in which case, you probably have some people supporting you anyway with some food or whatever. But that's for the Tibetan monks who are probably not watching this video. Let's continue with the list. Meditation, physical fitness, proper diet, understanding nutrition, and having a workable understanding of neurochemistry. This doesn't mean you have to have some degree or be a psychiatrist. Sorry. You don't have to understand these things at amazing degrees of detail. But if you understand general neurochemistry, which I've been forced to just by living my life, I've had to take many, many different medications. There are also some other reasons I'll get into in just a second here. But understanding neurochemistry has a lot to do with living a good life. If you have a general understanding of what dopamine is and what dopamine does, of what serotonin is and what serotonin does, of what norepinephrine is and what it does, of what cortisol is and what it does, and we can go down the list, continue on. But even if you had like a general understanding of like just, what did I list, like 4 right there, just those 4, that can change your life, like literally. Someone who doesn't know how dopamine relates to goal-directed activity and understand that dopamine actually comes from the seeking of goals far more than the attaining of goals, that's an insight that's literally medically, scientifically verified that can inform how you can live your best life. You actually need to be trying your best to progress towards things that you authentically desire. That's one thing that understanding dopamine, your dopaminergic systems, can teach you. And we could go far into more detail about that just in a general life sense, but let's continue on here. So also, psychedelic use specifically for spiritual and personal development. Experimenting with these things, which is highly risky if you have my mental health and medical diagnoses. It can be really risky, but at the end of the day, I accepted the risk, I accepted the reward that came from it, and, I haven't been involved in that world in a few years now, but the kind of crazy potency that using those substances specifically for personal and spiritual growth. This wasn't for fun. This was for like, okay, I'm getting like suicidal levels of depression. There are studies on psilocybin being very effective at treating depression. Let's try this right now instead of, maybe becoming even more suicidal or depressed. Trying that and doing that in the context of meditating for years, in the context of studying how to use these substances specifically for growth and development, that gave me a certain window into how the mind works. I used other substances too, and that also aided my understanding of neurochemistry and also like the lived experience of what neurochemical shifts actually do in your brain, and then taking the medications to counter certain shifts. I've been through so many different states of consciousness. It's unbelievable. And I mean, everybody's been through an immense amount of states of consciousness. The thing is, most people go through states of consciousness that are more or less the same. I've been through such a wide variety. It really does give you insight into, for one, your resilience, not even as a human being, but your resilience as a more or less container of consciousness, or as consciousness moving and expressing and morphing and shifting itself. That thing is truly indestructible. Truly indestructible. Your human self, not 100% indestructible, right? But you've got to realize that there is an immense amount of resiliency in the awareness that you inhabit right now. That thing is fucking rock solid and strong, and can take almost any shift, really. So anyway, beyond that one, there's also the skill of mindset knowledge, understanding how your mindset impacts your reality, how your mindset impacts your emotions, how your mindset impacts your ability to learn, to grow, to handle hardship, etc., etc. Mindset training. So beyond mindset knowledge, there's mindset knowledge. A lot of people come into mindset knowledge. If you're interested in personal development in this world, and you're wanting to grow, you'll probably come into plenty of mindset knowledge and insights. The real thing is, where is your training and ability to use even just one of those main insights into mindset knowledge? This is one thing the Buddhist system, specifically certain Theravada Buddhist teachings, do really well. I think even more so in the Thai forest tradition, if I'm right. But basically, so much of Buddhism is teaching you that you can control your state of consciousness. You can control your mind, your emotions, all of that, and not even in like a rigid way necessarily, but you can change your internal experience and emotions and thoughts and feelings. You can, and your perceptions, you can change all of that to be in a heavenly type of experience with the tools that you have right inside your own body and mind right now. There's nothing external you need other than the knowledge and the time training with it. So anyway, I could get more into that. Some of my videos have gotten into that a bit, but training your mindset and the ability to bring yourself back up, very important. Different forms of meaning making. Right here I have like tarot reading as an example. That's something I actually did in a lot of my manic episodes, even in the psychiatric ward. With a normal deck of cards, I would do what's called cartomancy, which is tarot reading with a normal deck of cards. Whether you believe in any spiritual underworkings behind a system or a practice like that, like tarot reading, at the end of the day, it is a way of practicing meaning making in ways that you wouldn't do with your mind alone without a tool. So just meaning making in general, understanding how meaning making works, practicing with making different meanings. It's one of the things that makes your mind and your beliefs and your personality pliable, and one of the things that can help you come back from difficult situations and continue to move forward when things are going well. You won't become stagnant. Resourcefulness. Resourcefulness is you can't get rid of this skill. If you want to have a good life, no matter who you are, you have to have the ability to be resourceful. You have to be able to use what you have wisely and well. Get the most out of the building blocks in your life you have right now to go to the life you want more. Again, resourcefulness. That can come from financial resourcefulness, being effective with the money that you have. A big part of that is understanding personal finance. But anyway, resourcefulness. You can find out how to use money well, invest, create your own business, etc. Also, you can find out how to be involved in loving and supportive relationships well, which I talked about earlier. You can be spiritually resourceful. You can be emotionally resourceful. Resourcefulness is such a huge and important topic. I could make a video talking multiple hours probably right now. If I just stopped and chose to make that video, I could do that about resourcefulness. There's also equanimity in extreme circumstances. And this is a type of resiliency mainly in your emotions and your perceptions. Not being swayed too far by really drastic and extreme things that happen, remaining steady through very challenging circumstances. There's also courage. Having the courage to pick yourself back up and do the work or fight against the fear that's trying to hold you down. That's very important. If you hit rock bottom, a lot of the reason why you are ever at rock bottom is because of your personal beliefs that are trying to limit you, because they don't want you to have to go through the inertia to build up such strong energy to get yourself out of that rock bottom state. It's so easy to stay at rock bottom in a sense. Like, the only price you have to stay at rock bottom is to pay the suffering that you experience in the now. A lot of people end up being happy to pay the suffering in the moment, rather than like, they'll go through the suffering of being at rock bottom all the time because they don't want to turn up the notch of suffering for just a moment, to have the suffering of knowing they're at rock bottom plus the suffering of putting in a bunch of effort to get themselves escape velocity out of rock bottom. Anyway, confidence in my ability to make a comeback, which is also tied in with that courage. Eventually, you've picked yourself up from the ashes. You've risen from the ashes enough times. You know that pretty much no matter what happens to you, wherever you are, even if it's worse than you've ever had it before, there is a way that, with the natural thing that you are as a human being, you can pick yourself up. Whether you can change everything to become better than some other period in your life or better than someone else's life, that's not important. It's really, do you have the ability to pick yourself back up? And I feel like I've realized throughout my life, the answer is always yes. You always have the ability to pick yourself back up. The question is, do you want to put in the work to pick yourself back up? To lift yourself to a certain stratosphere versus another, they take different levels of energy, different levels of development. There's also work ethic, perseverance, and plenty of other skills. Essentially, all of my life's learning and development is channeled toward getting back on track when I hit rock bottom. No developmental subject is off limits. And that's important. You've got to realize your entire life experience goes into building who you are and the skills and understanding you have that will get you out of rock bottom. What you learned in second grade or preschool comes into effect when you're trying to get out of rock bottom, because it's an experience, and it's a discipline that takes your entire being to do properly and well and effectively. At the end of the day, my main insight to share is you can come back from true rock bottom rapidly. You can come back from true rock bottom rapidly, but the personal development and life infrastructure needed to pull this off well will require years of work, trial and error, failure, growth, and pain. I've went through that trial and error process for a decade of falling down to rock bottom, getting back to a better state than I've ever been in multiple areas. Therefore, I'm going to help in sharing my most important insights and lessons, which allowed me to build the skill of the comeback. And if you stick around for more videos, that's what you'll be seeing on my channel pretty regularly. At the end of the day, most of my videos are going to tie into this skill because, again, it's my entire being that I've built, my entire life that I built that helps me with this skill. So if I'm sharing anything that's important to me in life, it's going to tie into your ability to make a comeback. But in the next, coming months, I'll be releasing videos specifically tailored to this subject. So if you're interested in that, subscribe. If you found this video interesting or helpful or entertaining, give it a thumbs up. Comment if you have any direct questions or would like to request a certain video or topic to be discussed by me in a future video. And with that, I will let you guys go. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I know that you have more potential within you.